Welcome in, everyone, to Lock In Live NFL Week 2 with Uncle Phil and Smooth Andy. Thanks again for joining us on this lovely Sunday morning. Looking forward to football today. Looking forward to Uncle Phil and Smooth Andy's picks, and let's get after it. What do you say, Uncle Phil? Andy?
Yeah, man, I can't wait. I'm ready to do it. Week 1 was a learning experience for me, especially with 8 new coaches, 8 new quarterbacks. Man, I'm much readier. I'm much more ready for week 1 or week 2 than I was for week 1. How do you feel, Smooth Andy?
Ditto. Yeah. Plus, this is how much I love taking or teams that are being ignored in the market, and there's a lot of lopsided stuff going on this week. So I was delighted to see that. But my card is going to be ugly. So prepare yourselves.
As always, we are prepared.
Works for me. Well, before you guys lock in live, let's just do a quick recap of last week. Uncle Phil, you went 4-4 on Sunday. Smooth Andy 3-4. So not fantastic, not a catastrophe. I guess, what did you guys learn week 1, and what are you going to do from last week's performance to get ready for this week and deliver some winners?
Smooth Andy, what about you?
Well, I like an idiot because I'm so excited to have football back, and it was week 1. I even cautioned everyone last week, don't jump in too many games because it's just you have almost nothing to go by. It used to be you could watch preseason and learn a few things. I don't personally think that's much help anymore because so many starters rest and things like that. So I went out and bet 7 games last week, which was dumb. I should have dipped my toe in the pool and walked in with 3 or 4 bets instead, just to have a little fun, but not carpet bomb like that. So that's what I learned, is I need to take my own advice.
Yeah, I thought about that too. But even though I played 7 on Sunday and 1 on the Thursday night before, that's where I got the 4-4. But for me, when I play games is when I pay attention more to detail and when I learn more about them. And if I'm not wagering on a game, then for me, I just don't learn it as well. So for me, I didn't today. I've got 10 plays in my notebook, so I plan on learning a lot today. But I felt good about the games based on last week. I thought last week breaking even was a win for me, and I'm excited about this week. This week is, I think, should be a better week. Certainly feel better about today than I did yesterday's college games.
It's good to hear on that. Yep. With that being said, let's get to it. Where you heading first, Uncle Phil? Let's lock it in live.
Yeah, for me, I'm headed to Nashville first, where the Jets are coming to visit the Titans. And last week, both teams' offenses didn't look great. Will Levis just looked very mechanical, not fluid. I don't think he's the guy for Tennessee, but I think that's who they're stuck with. It's very telling that his coach, Brian Callahan Jr., said they've been better off in the fourth quarter just punting every possession rather than actually going. So maybe they'll start that this week. And then Aaron Rodgers, it's really interesting. If you looked at the chart of his passing, he only threw short and to the left. If you kind of divided the field up into, say, 6 squares, 1 left deep, 1 left short, 1 middle deep, 1 middle short, 1 right deep, 1 right short. All his passes were left and short. And it's just because of that Achilles. He just doesn't trust his offensive lineman. He just, he probably doesn't trust himself. He's clearly not as mobile. And he just doesn't want to get hit. And I don't blame him. But today's going to be a different story. Tennessee's D-line will flat get after him, even more so than the 49ers. And you've got L'Jarius Sneed matched up on Gary Wilson. And I think that that's going to be a tough matchup for the Jets as well. So I'm taking the under 41. I just think this game is going to be, what the 49ers showed last week is you can run on the Jets on their defense. They played that wide 9 defense, and there was certainly some running lanes for the 49ers, and they took advantage of that. I think you'll see Tony Pollard run this week. He looked good last week. He was injured all last year, so it was good to see him run, and I thought he did a good job. So I expect them to keep on the ground. I think the Jets will be limited in passing, and I think they'll try to run as well. So I expect that total to go under 41. The next game I like is I'm going to Kansas City, where the Bengals are coming calling. And, it's been Joe Burrow's the only quarterback with a winning record versus Patrick Mahomes at 3-1. Brady was 3-3. So, I think that some people prematurely started calling Arrowhead. They started calling it Burrowhead. And I think that after day that Joe Burrow leaves 3-2, I'm a big fan of Joe Burrow. Love the Bengals. They've kind of unofficially become my new team, but I'm just not. Last week was just looked like more than a 1-week event. The Bengals didn't look physical. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't run the ball. Those are bad things. And Joe Burrow's wrist injury kept flexing it the entire game. I think there's more there than they let alone. And certainly probably everybody's seen the video now about him trying to hold up the Gatorade bottle. Just looked very awkward. He's not ready. There's too much. T. Higgins is still out. They just don't have any weapons. The Bengals are just cheap. They won't pay people. They've gotten Joe Burrow injured, and now they won't pay his weapons. And Jamar Chase is now, there's a lot of noise there. I don't like noise, especially when it comes to around the starting time. So for me, give me the Chiefs -6.5, and I'll take that to the bank. I just feel like this game's. I don't think it's going to be that competitive. I really don't.
Well, I love to hear that as a Mahomes fan. Big rivalry, should be a great game. Really
Yep.
rooting for you there. A little extra for sure. Smooth Andy, where are you heading today?
Well, I have some just horrifically ugly teams that I'm on today, and I'll start off by saying my top 3 that I'm going to be announcing now. I'll obviously fill out the card a little more later on Twitter. The top 3 are quarterbacked by Bryce Young, Malik Willis, and Sam Darnold. So Carolina, Green Bay, and Minnesota are my top 3. Carolina just hit a ton of boxes. I know they're just an absolute garbage dump, but I can't ignore the metrics when they come across my desk. I can't just say, well, no, I'm not going to bet on them. I'm obviously hoping that they're going to step up and do a little bit better. Green Bay, I'm hoping it's a sum of all the parts, the 21 other starters that are going to lift Malik Willis instead of him being in charge of lifting them. And they'll just do their job as a team, because they are a very good football team if they have a decent quarterback, which obviously right now they don't. And Minnesota, I think they might be kind of for real. Uncle Phil mentioned Sam Darnold. We talked about him in the offseason, about how much he liked this spot for him, and how I was like in a wait and see mode. And I'm still in a wait and see mode, but I think he had a really impressive game last week. Looked really in control. Looks like he might even be their quarterback for the future, but obviously it's one game. So let's just keep our eyes on it. They are all 3 of these teams that I picked. I mean, they're all getting tiny percentages of the bets according to several books. They're all dogs, obviously, and they all just tick a ton of boxes for me. I'm not going to go through every metric I look at, but those are my 3 again. It's Carolina, Green Bay, and Minnesota.
Just to add a little bit more color to what Smooth Andy's talking about, I got a text this morning from an NFL agent that talked about the Colts. It said the text from him was that the Colts defense is banged up, been talking to them all week about bringing in players, that they're kind of in bad shape. So maybe that does fare well for Green Bay, and maybe hits one of your metrics. Certainly the sharps are all over Minnesota. That line's dropped quite a bit. Certainly, that's the trick of week 2, right? Is that you think a team is is one way because they burst the competition they played in week 1. The Jets were basically non-competitive. Minnesota at home will be a lot more competitive, and Sam Darnold, you and I have talked about this before, is that it's all about environment. Coaching matters, and when you get the right coach, you get the right environment, people thrive. Like, again, people, 2 years ago threw away Baker Mayfield, thought he was done, thought he'd never been there, and now Baker's, again, arguably had the best passing performance of any quarterback in the league last week. So, glad to see Sam Darnold getting a shot, and will be interesting to see what he does against 49ers, against his old team.
Yeah. And one other bit, one of the metrics that I ticked with both Carolina and Green Bay, not Minnesota, but Carolina and Green Bay. Carolina's the over-under is 38.5 in that game. Green Bay, the over-under is 40. Those are both in the range where that's a not an automatic bet, but it's a flag for me to look at that game. So dogs in low total games are also a good thing to be looking for when you're looking at your card. And there's so many low over unders today. I mean, they're just everything's around 40. So I had a lot to choose from.
Speaking of that, I'm surprised that Tennessee didn't hit any of your metrics.
They did. They're a 2 flag game for me at the bottom, so they'll be on Twitter. And I do like them a lot this week. I thought they played really well last week, with the exception of that folding at the end and everything that happened. I mean, that was a tough beat last week, but I was impressed by their, knowing that they were Tennessee and they seemed to be in rebuilding mode. I thought they played pretty well. So,
yep, absolutely. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see. I knew they'd kind of hit your, and they would have hit mine too, except man, I can't see putting good money on Will Levis.
I'm putting good money on Malik Willis, who's the guy who just got traded away from Tennessee because they gave up on him.
Well, let me give you a little solace in that, is that being with Tennessee, he had to prepare twice a year against Gus Bradley's defense, potentially go in. So now, him being with Indianapolis, he has studied that defense, and even though he came in 3 weeks ago, he knows that defense of Indianapolis. So that should give him an advantage.
Didn't he also steal Will Levis's girlfriend?
I thought that was Anthony.
Or was that the other Malik?
I thought that
Cunningham.
was Anthony. I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, yeah. So that's it for me, Matt. Back to you, bud.
Let's do a quick round of questions. First on the line, we got Preston on Twitter. He says Colts -2. That's it. He's all on the Colts -2. What do you guys think? I know you guys just discussed it, but
yeah, kind of thought it would stay away from game for me. I initially liked the Colts, then got that info and thought about Malik Willis having to prep before, and Packers at home. Indianapolis, better quarterback. I'm still not sold on. I thought Green Bay looked bad their first game, had all year to prep, but maybe that was the field that they were playing on. So, we'll see. I'll have a better feel for Green Bay. I just don't have enough data on them right now, and certainly Smooth Andy is on Green Bay. So I think that's about all we feel right now.
We can say, well, I'll say one thing. Pull the curtain back just a little bit. We're not going to get into specifics, but Uncle Phil bets larger amounts on his bets, so he really needs to decide whether he's willing to invest. I can carpet bomb a little bit more because I don't bet quite as much. So I can look at a game where Malik Willis is the quarterback and say, yeah, okay, and he's going to have a harder time doing that because he invests more. So I can take those kind of things, and I don't blame you one bit for what you were saying there.
Yeah. And my bankroll took a serious hit after yesterday's notebook, so I'm ready to get it all back again today. So excited about today's card. Like I said, I like today's card much better than I did yesterday's card. I fooled myself into thinking I did, but I like today's card much better.
Sweet. Let's take two more questions. We're seeing a lot of Browns Jaguars questions in the chat. Anything there?
Smooth Andy, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, Cleveland is going to make in fact, they had as many flags as Minnesota, and I moved them down just because I didn't want to say that I was taking Bryce Young, Malik Willis, and Deshaun Watson. I moved Minnesota up so I could say Sam Darnold instead because I felt that was a little bit less nausea-inducing for everybody. But I am on Cleveland. They hit a bunch of marks again for me. I know, Deshaun looked terrible last week, but sometimes that's a good thing. When it comes to betting, everybody's on Jacksonville this week, so I'm on Cleveland.
I'll support your. It's not in my notebook, but I'll support your Cleveland Browns by saying that to me the Jags lost their narrow loss over Miami. Lost a little luster for me after Miami looked so bad against Buffalo at home the other night. I thought, oh, well, Miami's a good team. They got beat. And I'm like, oh, well, Miami may not be that good because Miami certainly didn't look good against Buffalo. And, Buffalo was clearly a superior team. So I wonder how good the Jags are. And also a little stat is that the Browns are 11-2-1 since 2022 after a loss against the spread.
Interesting.
Yep.
Next on the line, we got Zachary Burke from Twitter. He wants to know about Ravens team total over 23.5. Seems like a type of game where there's going to be a lot of points.
Smooth, do you have any thoughts on that one?
I'm perusing the spreadsheet right now, and the dogs are barking, so I'll leave it to you for now.
Okay, sounds good. I would say the Ravens will. That is an really interesting game to me. I think, especially because the Harbaughs are really, really close, and of course, Jim Harbaugh just played the Raiders last week, and this week he passed all that information to John, and so I expect them to tack on that. I think the over the team total is a good play.
Sweet. Thanks for the question, Zachary. Uncle Phil, Smooth Andy, any final words before we wrap up here and get to go watch a pretty solid slate of football?
Smooth Andy, leave it to you to start us off.
I might need to invest in some sedatives for my dogs for when we do the shows. That's my final thought. But I'm looking forward to this. I like a stinky betting card, and this one is going to be just disgusting. It's going to make you feel. Hopefully, at the end of today, they're talking about how many dogs covered and how one-sided it was. Because if that's the case, we're going to have a good day. So
yeah, absolutely. Look, I love this week. I certainly feel a lot better about it than I did last week. I'm excited about this week. Certainly excited to get my money back from the notebook yesterday. It was horrendous. And I am looking forward to today and excited about it. For Matt, who produces the show, for Smooth Andy, who is clearly a dog lover of all kinds of teams and of the canines. And so anyway, I'm Uncle Phil. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. And let's have a day and let's roll.